Jake doesn't like doing it live. It makes him.
I never said I didn't like it.
It gets uncomfortable.
I can do it. We can do live. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, well. All right.
Sorry.
Monetization right out the window.
Sorry.
Started off with a bang. Not that we care about monetization here. You like how I'm matching here? You see this? It's not even on purpose.
It's adorable.
I like it.
Yeah.
My rhino uniform. Just this.
Was that a rhino? Did you make that shirt?
I did make this shirt. I was on a pretty hardcore kick in the design department for a hot minute.
I can tell.
At some point, I'm gonna make do an actual store online or something. But
Gony Central.
Not even that, but there's an Agurnia shirt that I made, and
I remember that one.
Morelia shirts, and Pichu Office, and all the other stuff. So we'll see. But
you need to make me a Yellow Rat shirt.
There might be one at Goodwill.
Wow.
You and Montross can go hang out there and maybe dig through some bins and find something. I don't know.
That's rude.
Or you could just get a Natty Light shirt. I feel like it's pretty much the same
thing.
You
know what? We're going to get our own shirts made by somebody else.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay. I ain't scared.
Wow.
It's getting busy.
I send you business. I send you business, and this is the thanks I get.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Everyone, let's just relax. This is episode 183 of the Herpetoculture Podcast. I am Justin Smith of Palmetto Coast Exotics, and as always, I am joined by Mr. Jacob Bratz of Longleaf Reptilia. I very closely came to saying JLB Morelia.
Ben, we're still on that? I've got
a little bit. I don't know.
You also kind of sound like you just said Bratz, though. And no, man. No, we don't play that here.
Okay. I'm Justin Smith of Palmetto Coast Exotics, and I'm here with this asshole.
I'm Jacob Bratz with Longleaf Reptilia.
Anyways, the show is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram, BlackBoxCages.com. We need to get ourselves up that way and get our stuff.
Is it ready?
I don't know. But I'm just saying we got a plan because we got
a plan.
That's a trip,
It's a trip.
It's not like we're just getting down to Savannah or anything,
No, it's actually farther than our Daytona trip, which is kind of funny.
Yep.
But
you need a rack, you need a cage. Check them out; they're all the rage. And then
did you do that on purpose?
I do that on purpose all the time. Dr. Dre's got nothing on me, dude. We're already on SoundCloud. I could already be a SoundCloud rapper.
SoundCloud podcaster.
Yeah. So that, and then get some hot sauce. Go over to SteveSnaketuary.com. Get yourself some Venom hot sauce. That stuff is also all the rage. I'm buying it from the Raging Cajun himself, Mr. Steve Kennedy, down there, relocating snakes, teaching people about snakes, probably telling just about every person he talks to that cottonmouths don't chase people, because that's I guess a myth that will just never die.
No.
And it's all good. Whether it's cottonmouth sauce, speaking of, that's the best one, in our opinion. Coral snake, pygmy rattler, copperhead, it's all good.
It's great. He's got all of the sauce. Did you see what I did there? No.
I don't get it.
Okay. Well, it's because you're not hip. You're not hip.
Is that like a
I don't know.
TikTok thing?
I know. I don't know. All the kids say it, all the sauce. At least I think. I don't know. I'm not hip either, but
I'm still trying to understand the whole bussin' thing. Casey Cannon, ever since Daytona, where Casey Cannon just all of a sudden started calling everything bussin', to the point to where it got to be just a joke. Still, I'm getting old.
That's one of the new sayings. Whatever it is. I don't either. I don't really get it.
What is new over yonder across town? Besides you forgetting to pick up the JNI last week.
Did I forget or did we forget?
I'm pretty
sure I walked out and you said bye. Not, hey, don't forget to grab the JNI. So, don't blame me. But not a whole lot. 2 weeks ago, I went down to Florida, picked up some hognose snakes from Elijah Day with Destination Gecko. Those are freaking awesome. They ate fantastically. They're very high quality snakes, very beautiful. Yeah, pretty sure that's all that's new. I went and saw Skylar Williams with Hail the Scales. After that, crashed with him, saw his stuff, had some monitors, had a great time.
I still need to hear about this dirt bike thing. I only heard inklings. I didn't hear the full, like, what exactly was going on.
Yeah, that was it was interesting.
I thought it was like a bicycle. When he said bike,
No.
I thought he meant like you took a bike off a jump, not a dirt bike.
Long story short, I sent his dirt bike off one jump and I landed it, but shortly after there was another jump which I whiskey throttled off of and got sent flying about 10 feet in the air and slammed into the off ramp of said jump and almost hit Skylar with the dirt bike. And yeah.
He promptly took the keys from you.
No, that I was done after that because it was getting dark. I had been trying to make the first one like a couple tries, but I kept like duking it a little short, and I was getting kind of mad. So I came around the turn and I just sent it full throttle, and I made it. Did not make the second one even close. So,
all right, Travis Pastrana.
That's that story. It was great. His one rule was don't hurt yourself, and I was like, And his bike was fine. That was the important part. So
that's all that mattered.
Yeah, that's all that mattered. I was like, dude,
shattered my spine, but his bike's okay.
Yeah, no, dude. There was like a perfect like imprint of where I landed on the off ramp. Like, I hit that thing hard. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little sore the next day, but yeah, came out with minimal bruises and
no video or nothing, man. I'm disappointed in Scott.
Yeah, because he was like, dude, I was about to video that. He's like, I wish I would have, because like literally, you just like you landed it, and then like you could see my tire track go off like the corner of the next jump, and like I just like sent the bike, and I was like airborne like 10 feet up, and yeah, it was kind of insane. I hit the dirt. This guy was like, that was awesome. It was great. It's definitely a weekend to remember. We packed in a lot of stuff for only a day. But yeah, no, we had a great time. This guy's awesome. Love that guy.
Did you play with his monitors?
Yeah, dude. I have a video of me feeding Blaze.
You got a video of that, but you didn't get a video of the bike.
Yeah, the important things, you know. But got to feed some of his monitors. I fed Blaze, which is his big one. She crawled up my leg a little bit, but she was really quick to take it out of the tong, so I didn't get her like all the way up. She kind of just like took 2 steps, grabbed it, and was gone. I was like, oh man,
stranger danger.
She was a lot quicker than yeah, dude. It really is crazy. Like they really know, and it's funny. Like you you hear Mike and Sky talk about, you know, how monitors can really tell person to person, like, you know, they know you, and you don't really know exactly how it is until you witness it, you know. And seeing her interact with Sky was fucking awesome. But then like getting her to interact with me was very like, you could tell she was like, I don't know about this.
He's got food. That's the only that's
yeah, that was
all I need.
But I did get one of his younger monitors to feed from tongs from me, and when that happened, I was like, I am a god. But you know,
Mike Stefani, who?
I am a king. But no, that was really cool getting one of the babies to feed, because it was one of his kind of more finicky ones, and I didn't think it was gonna go for it, but sure enough, started taking tongs from me. Yeah, so that was really cool seeing his setups. So we had some of the setups when we were talking to Mike about how he does like the water underside. I was having a really hard time picturing it until I saw Sky setups, and I was like, "Oh, this is
Yeah, it's like a
this is
setup
freaking
built
awesome."
over like the basin, right?
Yeah,
And then it's just
yeah,
drainable and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. It's got like a little hole in it where you just turn a valve, and all the water drains
Mhm.
out, and you spray it and disinfect it. And it's great, really cool system. And seeing his setups and like interacting with the monitors, like put everything in different perspective for me, which was really cool.
How so?
Like just like I said, like hearing somebody talk about how these setups should look and be is one thing, but then when you actually see it, and then also people talking about how monitors act and like the whole how smart they are and how they can they know people. And it's one thing to hear about, listen to it, and be like, oh yeah, that's cool, but once you see it like firsthand, it's like, oh my god, like these animals are insane. They're so intelligent, they're so smart, and Sky just has them so dialed into him. They
Hmm.
a lot of them know him, they trust him, and it was just really cool to see him work those animals. And I can't say enough about the guy, man. He puts so much time and effort into those things. It's awesome. The cage he has for Blaze is huge.
I feel like it's bigger than it looks. Like you see the videos and
It
stuff of
is.
it, but then if you saw it in person, it'd be like it's probably looks like it's actually way bigger than it appears.
Yeah, no, it's huge, man. It's a really good setup enclosure. And he's got the mister, and he just rains it on her for several minutes, and watching her just like soak up all that water. And I tell you what, Blaze is way bigger in person.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude, I saw her and I was like, oh my god, like she's big. Um, so that was really cool. And seeing all the smaller ones kind of interact in a cage and how they hit and all that. And it's funny, Blaze is so big, but like you go into the cave, like when I first got there, we went into a shed and we walk in, and I look in Blaze's enclosure and I'm like, where the hell is she? Like she just disappeared into her cork log, such a big animal could just disappear. And
Hmm.
it was really cool. I genuinely enjoyed it. Like I said, I love Sky. Him and I get along really, really great. He's somebody I talk to, every day just about. And, being able to hang out with him more one-on-one and see him interact with his animals was just awesome. I truly, truly enjoyed that. It was too short, that's for sure. I went there. I left my house at like 6 a.m. on Saturday. I went straight to Eli's place, hung out with him for a little while, which was also awesome. Got to handle his false water cobras, which I've never handled a falsie before. So that was really cool. Talked to him for about 2 hours. Hung out in the snake room, got the hogs. I hauled ass to Sky's house and crashed there for a night. And yeah, and then was back Sunday. So it was definitely a quick trip. It was hard. It was long. I had to be at work on Monday, so it was hard, but it was so much fun. Totally worth it. I'm already planning a trip back, hopefully in March, to do some herping with Sky and maybe get Eli and Billy involved, if we can. Got to work it out with them. So yeah, man, it was a great time. I love visiting Florida and love seeing the people I love. So it was all around a great trip. And yeah, monitors, freaking awesome, man. If I had the time and the space, yeah, I would do it, but I just don't. Small room, 2 jobs. It's no, can't happen
Yeah.
anytime soon. But man, seeing him interact with his animals was like, dude,
It's just a different in terms of like herps. It's another level.
yeah, it's a whole different level.
You
It's
know what I
like
mean?
freaking Chris Pratt in Jurassic World, man. Like, like obviously, that was extenuating a little bit, but no, it's so cool. Just seeing him interact with them, and it's just the bond that he has with his animals is, I mean, you can't bond like that with a rat snake or a carpet python. Like you have to grow a true bond with your monitors, especially
You
your
can
bigger
do it with
ones.
rhinos. I've done it.
I'm not even gonna respond to that.
Okay. Well, there's nothing really anything new going on over here. Got some friends coming this weekend. They're getting their daughter a corn snake.
Nice.
So they were like, we have an 11-year-old. What kind of snake should we get her? And I was like, you can come over and pick out a corn snake. Like, I have plenty. It's like, literally bring her over and she can pick one out.
Yeah.
So they're going to do that this weekend, which I'm pretty
That's
excited
awesome.
about.
Yeah.
It's one of my really good friends that I've been friends with for a long time. I kind of got him into tarantulas, so he's got a couple tarantulas, has for a couple years now, and so I guess the kids have been wanting a snake, and so I was like, dude, I got you. I was like, don't get a ball python. You got a corn. Get you a corn snake. It'll be infinitely more fun.
Dude, you should have told him to come get Spurge, man.
No. Maybe if they enjoy the corn enough after a couple months and they're interested, then I will put Spurge on the table.
Spurge is great. He's great. He's gotten some size on him now.
But other than that, pretty much business as usual. Going to be warming everything up here soon. Got some adult corns. I have some like the corns I was planning to pair. Started getting food in them and stuff, and getting them sort of prepped, and then the raffle is still happening for Slate Reed. So please go to theherpeticulturenetwork.com. and it's right there on the homepage. Still got plenty of slots open on a handful of things. Stacking up.
Yeah.
We got a good chunk of money raised so far. We're not going to draw until the 27th.
Yeah, so you got a little over 2 weeks left.
Mm-hmm. Plenty of time.
Yeah. So.
There's some things that I need to get in on before the end as well. There's some of that artwork I really want to get a slot or two on, especially the Rhino Rat art, because it's a Rhino Rat. So
that's a really cool picture.
I don't know. I like prints and all are cool, but there's something about original art that I really, really like.
Yeah.
I like knowing that that's like the one. Well, if there aren't prints of it, like it's the only one that exists in a sense. That's it. So.
Especially for that Rhino Rat one that Jeff
Frederick
drew. I mean, it's a really good picture for one, and two, I mean, it's the only one, so it's pretty
as soon as he said he was doing something with a Rhino Rat, I got excited because I was like, hell yeah. But other than that, check that out. And then we're joined here this week by Mr. Chas Ewing. So my fellow admin of the U.S. Gonyosoma Alliance, rocking the shirt and everything. What's up, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Hanging out. It's Thursday. This week has been weird. It like yesterday felt like Friday, and today felt like Friday, and I don't.
Dude, I went into work today, and I was about to type out my weekly report to one of my bosses, and I was like, wait, I don't do this until tomorrow. Like, fuck. I thought it was Friday, and it was sad.
Yeah. So Chas, if you're on Instagram, he is on there as More Than Morelia. So I mean, he's kind of a guy that's right in our wheelhouse. He likes Morelia and he likes colubrids and all kinds of stuff. So we usually sort of give people the option as to how much they want to dive into, like getting into herps and stuff. Like you can give us the long version or the short form version, but how'd you get into herps?
Well, I grew up in South Florida, so right kind of in the heart of everything reptiles. I think I had access to maybe 5 different shops growing up that were within probably about 30 minutes of my house. Kind of spent my childhood running canal banks and dip netting and all that fun stuff, catching alligators and brown basilisks. And I think I bought my first reptile when I was about 10 years old, and it was your classic long-tailed lizard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Petco, which didn't end well.
Never does.
I mean, he probably lasted 2 weeks. Little buddy. Kind kind of kept some things here and there. I kept a bunch of native stuff that I had caught, and everything from like brown basilisks to green iguanas and Florida water snakes, Cuban nitinoles, pretty much whatever I could get my hands on and keep for a little while. I would do that. And I think around 2013, I bought my first crested gecko, which I still have today. He's still alive.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's an old man. I bought him as an adult. So he's
wow.
I don't even know how. Let's see, 2013, and it is 2023. I mean, he has to be like 13 or 14 years old.
That's crazy
at this point.
Yeah.
Really fell in love with crested geckos and grew a pretty sizable collection of those. I think I peaked right around 250.
Wow.
Yeah, they're so productive that it's kind of hard if you have the space to not acquire that many, especially when each one kind of has its own unique paint job.
Yep.
I mean, you start pairing this with that, and
it's a slippery slope.
Man,
it's like covered in Crisco.
Which I think a lot of times is kind of hard to grasp for new keepers, like what that really looks like. 7 or 8 clutches of 1 to 2 eggs, a season, and they times that by even like 5 adult females, and I mean you're upwards of 50, 60 hatchlings for the year just right there. And I think I did that. I had that collection for probably 6 or 7 years. Probably from 2013. I think I actually got rid of them in 2019, which I went on an extended trip out of the country, and nobody was going to take care of my 250 crested geckos for 3 months. Certainly not my parents. They were like, they were definitely supportive of it, but they were not feeding those animals.
I know how that is. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the hardest parts too. Like when I was doing cresteds, was like going on vacation for anything longer than a long weekend or something was really tough, because it's like, I mean, thank God, like our friend Danielle lives here, who also keeps cresteds and stuff, because like that's a kind of a big ask of somebody. Because I mean, I didn't even have that many, but I think at the peak of it, I had probably 80 to 100 or so cresteds, and it was like that's
enough.
That's a lot,
Yeah.
And it's like to have someone be like, okay, I need you to come over like every other day and like just make sure everything's
right,
good, and that eggs, make sure there's no babies that have hatched, and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean the snakes and stuff, that's the nice part, is like I don't have to worry about that. And even then, if like I'm out of town and Katie's here, like Katie knows what to do if something needs to happen. So yeah, I feel that that's always a tough consideration when you got a lot of stuff you're working with and you want to take time off and go somewhere or something.
And then he met me, and I was like, dude, ditch these geckos, man. Just keep a bunch of snakes. What are you doing?
So I still have that original male. I have a adult male that I produced. And then I have just 2 other crested geckos that were given to me that were just rehomes that just needed some love, that were probably destined for the freezer if I didn't take them, just really messed up as hatchlings.
Oh, damn.
Oh, man.
And I've had those animals for, I mean, probably at least 8 years now.
Wow.
They're just doing wonderful. Awesome. You gotta give them that love in order for them to, make it.
Yeah.
So once I got out of the crested geckos, I kind of did I did a little bit of Abronia for a very short period of time. For a very short period of time. That was one of those animals I really didn't understand how complex cloud forest animals could really be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of keeping those, I feel like, is a lot of different crafts. You have the husbandry side of the animals, and then you have what I thought was like this really advanced care of these plants that would go into these terrariums and vivariums. And the reason I got out of the Abronia, because I wasn't happy with the sources that those animals came from. This was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, kind of when Abronia first started entering the hobby. Turned out they were most definitely not captive bred animals. And a zoologist in Ohio sent me a message. And he's like, I'm interested in taking everything you have. And I was like, great. I will box them up and send them to you.
What's your address?
Yeah.
Nice.
And, some of those animals came in gravid. So then I was dealing with these tiny little alligator lizards that I also had to care for. And just decided it was best for those animals. Like, they're already in the country. They've already produced, and the females are starting to bounce back. I figured that was the best thing for those animals to get moved along to somebody that had much more experience.
No.
Kind of from there, my first snake, really, since I was very young, since I was probably 10 or 11 years old, was a Brettles python.
Yeah.
Which have always loved carpet pythons. I was an Australia fanatic growing up and just watching these beautiful colored animals, watching Steve Irwin and seeing them in these different zoo exhibits over there. I really fell in love with them and the impressive size that the Brettles python can get. And knowing that they're generally a pretty placid and easy to handle animal. In the last, I think 4 years that I've been keeping them, I've taken, I think, 2 pretty good bites, but even with that, the animals are very reluctant to bite. They're very calm, and most of the time it is one of the pythons that you can just give to a new keeper, just put it in their hands and know that animal is going to behave like it usually would for me as its keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ironically, I'm getting a male Brettles from our buddy Justin Olson because he has one he's getting rid of. And so
Really?
he's like, dude, you want it? And I was like, yeah. But hey, in my defense, okay.
Damn it, Smitty.
Look, I got all these rats now. At some point, I'll have something that will actually be able to eat them within the next 5 years.
In the meantime, I'll take the others.
And I got that because I traded that male chondro for the rat colony and stuff too. So I have that empty space for a Brettles, a young Brettles. Look, take your judgment somewhere else. Okay. I miss Brettles.
No judgment, buddy. I know you miss Brettles. I was surprised you got rid of them in the first place.
There's not many things that can beat that contrast between the reds and the blacks. It is easily my favorite.
They're the total package.
They are. I think I would put diamond pythons at the top of my list, but the ones I want are fairly expensive for those cream of the crop animals. I am picking up a female Brettles from Mr. Schuyler on Monday, which I'm very.
Oh, that's good. He's going to you, or she's going to you?
Yeah.
Nice.
That original Brettles that I was telling you about, I had popped that animal as a baby, as a female, and it is most definitely not a female. It is definitely a male. So I'm sitting on 3 males right now.
Oof.
Mistake you got to make sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Take some learning. Very excited to get that animal.
It's a beautiful animal. I saw it.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. It's nice.
I'm also keeping some coastals. That's the only other Morelia subspecies that I'm keeping at the moment, and I have 1.3 of those.
Nice.
Definitely looking to expand a little bit more on those into, like I said, the diamond pythons. I really enjoy those. But kind of after my Morelia kick, once I started learning about all these crazy rat snakes from Asia, I just got that bug again, just like with the crested geckos. And I'm like, oh, I have to have this one and this one and this one.
That's where all the cool rat snakes come from, man. That in Texas.
Arizona.
Baird's rats. What was the initial draw to Morelia for you though? Like, I mean, was it something like for me? Like, when I remember seeing jungles in books, or it was probably coastals. They had them labeled as jungles in like a couple of just general snake books I had, and I just remember like Anthony Caponetto's site too. He had a picture of one of the tigers, and it has that triangular scale that splits like right in the very front.
Right.
I always loved the way that looked, and there was just something about carpets and like their head structure and stuff that like really drew me to those initially. And I think that's one of the reasons I never really got big into balls, is like I saw carpets and stuff first, and that just caught my attention. But that was always something about carpets that I just loved, was like the scalation and the head structure, and out of the pattern, like the velvety look of them and stuff too. I don't know, but what, like, was that a similar thing for you?
For me, with the Brettles pythons, it is the environment that they live in, how it is so hot during the day and can be so cold at night. And I just remember being amazed that an animal can survive in something like that, in a place that you'll sweat your ass off during the day, but you can see your breath at night. And this, a place that's really hard for even a person to live in both those climates, and here, like, this animal just does it flawlessly.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Well, when you go down to Skylar's, you're going to want yourself some poplins. So just
I know, man. Skylar's becoming the Papuan king down there. Nuts.
Yeah, it's where it's at, man. That's the majority of my carpet collection. I have a pair of coastals too, but poplins, man, it's where it's at.
And here's the other thing. I have so many friends like Skylar that are going to produce these crazy animals. There's no sense in me going to buy them right now.
No,
like,
definitely wait.
Right.
Definitely wait. Skylar's going to produce some awesome animals. I'm hoping to have 2 clutches this season, and no, there's a lot of people working with them. I say a lot. There's not a lot.
There's more now than there really ever has been.
Really ever was. Yeah, they've definitely kind of, I'm not gonna say hit their peak, but they've hit a good stride in the hobby. A lot of people are starting to realize that they're not dirt carpet pythons.
Right.
And yeah, no, Skylar's one of the guys leading the way with that, and yeah, he's got some awesome animals. He's got some really, really awesome animals. So no, when you want some,
he's the man to go to.
Oh yeah,
he's the man to go to.
Just let me know when you agree they're the best carpets out there.
Oh man, I mean, I've already said from day one that the Brettles it's superior to everything.
Yeah, well, technically, Brettles a carpet python.
Right.
Brettles a carpet python.
We go.
See what I did there?
We're gonna get into this.
No.
I have not read the more complete carpet python yet, so I will hold my opinions back.
I'm not one of those people. Morelia is Morelia. I don't know. It's a silly argument to me. I don't really care either way. Your opinion is your opinion.
Right.
But no. Either way, Brettles included or not, poplins are the best. So.
Taxonomy isn't real.
It's all made up.
Yeah. Sounds fake.
What was the first like Asian rat, old world rat you got into when you started going down that rabbit hole?
first old world rat, Vietnamese blue beauty. And I bought one on a Saturday at a show, and then went back on Sunday and bought another one. I was
There
just
you go.
sitting in the hotel room, just looking at this thing. I was like, man, I know they're over on that table. And those ones came from Josh Alder, the Exotic Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I know he's sitting on more of these. I was like, I don't want to pay to have it shipped. I better just bite the bullet and go get it now. I really like high contrast animals, things like the Brettles pythons, where you get that really, really deep red and that really dark black. And that was kind of the thing that drew me to the blue beauties, was the contrast of the blue against the gray, and that changing pattern down its body. I mean, it's 5 snakes in one.
Yeah.
Dude, I tell you, Skylar's got a massive blue beauty, and like I've never really seen an adult male or an adult period up close.
It's a pretty impressive snake.
Looking at that animal, I was like, oh my God, that thing is freaking massive. It is huge.
That's the only thing that stopped me from getting those two. Because those I've had that if I was going to get into any of the beauties, it would most definitely be blues. Yeah. I really could care less about the Taiwans. The calicos are nice, but the blues, man, those and the Grabowski eye, or whatever they're called, the Sumatrans.
Yeah.
But yeah, those blues, man, I remember that was another one as a kid, seeing pictures of it, be like, man, I want one. But now that I know how big they get, that's a lot of I'm already pushing Jansen eye and stuff. I really don't need another big pissed off.
I saw pictures and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty decent sized snake, but when I saw his up close, it was kind of insane. They make your Jansen eye look small. Your Jansen eye aren't tiny snakes, they're good sized snakes, but that blue beauty he's got is a freaking tank, dude. I don't think it's it's up there.
I've seen the pictures and the videos, and it's one of those things where it
probably
is much bigger than it appears in the
yeah.
sends us,
I've seen the pictures, seen the videos, and I was like, oh, I always knew it was a big snake, but seeing it up close, especially all puffed up and mad, I was like, good God.
I'll bite you from across the room.
Yeah, dude. I was like, good grief. Now I understand why he made the face that he did when that thing took a shot at him. I was like, good Lord, man. That thing is a tank.
Are yours pretty stereotypical in terms of attitude and stuff?
Oh yeah, mine hate me. It's great.
Isn't that always the most frustrating thing though? You got the prettiest snakes are always the ones that are the most high strung.
I enjoy it, man. That display is really something. I can't imagine what Skylar's looks like when it, it's open mouth and rear and back, because I think it'll probably hit you from 5 feet away. I think that snake is probably in the 8 to 9 foot range.
Yeah, it's about 8 foot.
That would be a cool species to see in the wild too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be. I would probably piss myself if I found one of those in the best way possible. But yeah, no, dude, they are such impressive snakes. And that was the other cool thing about seeing some of Skylar's stuff, is it put a whole new perspective on things, monitors specifically, and then seeing that blue beauty, it was like, pictures don't do these animals justice.
Nope.
At all. You don't realize the size and stature of these things until you see one up close, reared up, ready to rock your freaking world. They are impressive animals.
Square up, young blood.
Yeah, that's exactly. Dude, I walked in, I saw that thing looking me dead in the freaking face, reared back.
You want some too?
Dude, what?
That's how it is with the Jansen eye. The Jansen eye, I think it's different because that's not their first instinct is to rear up and go. Jansen eye, it's they tolerate a level of your bullshit, and then they start to do that. Like you see them start puffing at the neck and you see them start to rear back and you see them looking at you. And you're like, oh my God, here we go. And it's like when my female especially starts doing that, when I pull them out, I'm like, I just freeze. Because if I stop, she'll turn around and start going back to wherever she was trying to go. But like, I feel like with the beauties, especially the Vietnamese, it's like, nah, man, you ain't getting away. Like once you're mine, I got a hatchet with your dick's name on it. Like, let's go.
Yeah, no, dude, they are truly impressive animals. It's kind of insane, you know. And he's got a really good setup with the enclosure's huge. The cage that he has it in is massive, and yeah, it's just like it's comparable to like almost an adult carpet except longer.
Right.
You know, like it's insane, man. Like, you know, I've held, I think one of the biggest colubrid I probably ever handled was an adult male Chinese king. And that thing was every bit of 7-8 foot long, about as big around as my freaking forearm, you know, and that was intimidating. It was a big snake, but it was handleable. But then seeing Skylar's, it's just as big, almost just as girthy, you know, and then it's ready to rock your shit. Like, no, dude, that thing was insane.
Are yours full grown adults?
They're not. They are. I actually measured them yesterday, and both of them are right around 5.5 feet. So still got a lot of growing to do.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
I don't want them to stop there. They are being paired this year. They're
Nice.
2.5 years old, and the male is right around I think 20 months, right in that range, and just kind of going off like how Dan Maliri talks about the Orthriophis, with them breeding fairly young in the wild. Just wanted to see what they were going to do this year.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Very nice.
Which that's what these cages right up here behind me are, these 4-foot cages. One of the females was just kind of coming out and she was peeking up over the substrate barrier just to say,
what you doing over?
Yeah, and they're not afraid to teach you a lesson, man, like at all. When I go in those cages and they're, you know, curled up in the corner, it's pretty impressive how springy they are when they wake up, even compared to something like if you wake up a Brettles python. They're kind of sluggish, but man, that blue beauty, they just bounce right up. And they're just ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. They're awake, ready to rock your world, dude. Like, let's go.
Did you, as far as pairing those, like, do you cool those like you do other stuff, or are they more like a sort of a seasonal rainfall kind of thing?
I've had these. So there is a window right behind the stack of cages that they're in. So that back wall kind of cools probably like 8 to 10 degrees during the fall. And I do run ceramic heating elements in all of my cages. So they probably drop down to 68 degrees at night and then come up to 77 degrees during the day.
Okay.
Spot.
Yeah. Would you, at what point did you get into the rhinos?
Pretty much right after I got the blues. They're very much like the crested geckos, like I was saying. The research started, and I want to say I got those rhinos maybe 4 or 5 months after I got the blues, and started with a tiny pair of rhino babies, which also came from Josh Alder, which was a very big learning experience. I think both those animals went between 9 and 10 weeks without taking any food for me, which was very stressful.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting here holding this snake that can fit in a 2-ounce portion cup, I'm like, my God, you really need some food in you.
You're gonna die.
But man, the resilience of them is really incredible. I can't say they ever lost body tone or looked skinny. And I just kind of had to wait them out. I had rosy red minnows in the cage pretty much the whole time. And they would sit in the water dish, and after 3-4 days, the rosy red minnows would just die, and they would pay no attention to them. And I would repeat that process, rosy red minnows back in the dish. And the funny thing about those 2 rhinos is neither one of them ate until I added pinky mice into that water dish, which was very funny because they didn't eat the pinkies first. They ate the rosy reds first. You guys have this all backwards.
You just want to look at it and be like, "You dick."
That's actually that's the most baby rhino thing I've probably ever heard. Like, go figure. Like that, they're quirky is probably the best word for that species in general. They're just goofy.
And I think the biggest thing I learned from that experience is rhinos you just have to wait them out. You have to leave them alone and just wait them out. And just with the experience of the other rhinos that I currently own, I had a 1.5-year-old male go off of food for about 15 weeks, which it was during winter. It was nothing to be super concerned about. But they're just going to do what they want to do. It's like they're just made for it. Like I said, they really don't lose body tone, and you can kind of tell with the older animals once they're gonna take food. Like that particular male, was hiding in the back of the cage, not wanting to eat anything. And then one day I came in here and he's got his face pressed up against the glass. I'm like, "Oh, buddy, are you finally gonna eat something?"
Yes.
And they just pick up right where they left off.
Have you tried rat pups with any of yours?
I have not.
I offered my female. Normally the female that I have, like, I'll offer her some fuzzies and she goes crazy over them. I tried offering her a rat pup a couple days ago. I've actually done it twice now, and she no interest whatsoever. Like, didn't even look interested.
So this isn't, obviously I have no experience with rhinos, but I think a lot of snakes, like, once they get used to something, like anything foreign kind of throws them off. Like, I have some snakes that won't. I had a carpet for a while. It wasn't until after breeding season, when I didn't feed it for 3 months, that it took rats, but I had a carpet that literally I went a little while without feeding it, and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to trick you. You're hungry. I'm going to offer you this rat," because he would only eat mice. And I threw a rat in there, and obviously he saw heat and he went for it. But as soon as he hit it, he freaked out and like flung it across the cage. And it was like, "No, this isn't my mouse." It wasn't until after breeding season.
You're trying to kill me?
Yeah, it wasn't until after breeding season and a much longer extended period of not eating that he started to eat rats. And I have a Pituophis that won't touch mice. She will only eat rats.
Which one's that?
The female albino Florida.
Oh.
She will not eat mice, like, whatsoever. She would eat a live mouse, but she won't eat frozen thawed. And she will eat a frozen thawed rat the second she looks at it. It's the weirdest thing, but some snakes are picky like that. And then when they eat something for a certain amount of time, then you give them something else that smells different, and I feel like rhinos, I'm not going to say rhinos are picky eaters. Obviously, as babies, they can be, so that might kind of transfer to adults. Once they get used to eating something, that's kind of what they want, and then when you try to offer something similar, but it smells different, they're like, "No."
Well, I offer it to the males, and the males don't care. The males are like, "Sweet."
Yeah,
food.
and obviously,
the female,
it's individual. My male albino Florida pine will eat anything I put in front of him. He prefers rats. He doesn't eat mice from tongs anymore, but he eats drop fed mice. But if I throw a rat in front of him, he takes that thing like it's a piece of candy.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was a similar experience you've had if you've tried rat pups. So just normally none of mine refuse food. They're whatever it is, they'll take it. But I was just very surprised that I offered up, a rat pup, and she was like, no.
I haven't tried rat pups, mostly because I am buying rodents. And the price
Nice.
the price of rodents hurts
Nice.
the heart right now. And feeding a 70-cent mouse versus something that's 4 times the price. I'm not going to buy it if I don't have to. Especially when even something like quail, like small quail chicks, are still cheaper than something like a rat.
Are you feeding a lot of quail in general?
I haven't over the last couple months, but I kind of buy them. I'll buy like, a couple hundred quail at one time and just feed them till I run out.
Mhm.
And then I'll feed mice. And I also occasionally feed all the Asian rats frogs legs as well.
Oh yeah, frog legs are great. Me and Spinny both use frog legs.
Mhm.
I haven't lately because the ones from Walmart that I've gotten the last like 2 times, they were so freaking huge. I swear to God, they were like the size of like an
Dude,
adult rat.
I
Where I'm
can't
like,
get
what
them.
the? Like, I opened the box,
at
I
my
was like,
local
what the
Walmart.
hell?
I can't even get them at my local Walmart anymore. They don't sell them.
The ones I got in the past were a normal size. I was like, okay, like an adult mouse, overall inside in terms of like size and weight and stuff. But like the ones I've gotten lately, I'm like, this was not a frog. This was like a small dog or something. Like these are freaking huge.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? I ended up like hacking it up to try and get it into smaller pieces for some stuff. And then I was like, I can't buy these anymore, not knowing if they're going to be a normal size or not.
Yeah. And I tell you, Chaz, I'm the same way with rats because I did a lot of math. I do a lot of math to try to make sure I, buy the right rodents and save
Right.
as much as I can. And I found out that 2 jumbo mice is cheaper than 1 medium rat.
Right.
So instead of feeding medium rats, I feed 2 jumbo mice. Don't get me wrong, I go through jumbo mice like it's nothing. I think I go through almost 30 in a sitting, if I feed everything, which that includes the carpets. They don't eat as much as the colubrids, but the things that used to eat rats regularly now eat either 2 jumbo mice or quail, because quail of the same weight size is also cheaper than a medium rat. So it's like, the things that eat rats only eat rats in my room. So that's, yeah, rats are expensive. It's not fun.
I had a very similar experience with those frog legs. I mean, these things were like absolutely massive, and I just ended up, halving the pair of legs down the middle, and I'm just using them as Bredl's python food
Yeah.
now. Like, and the bone in those legs is so large to feed to something like a rhino rat that I found generally prefers a smaller food item.
Yeah.
But I feel like that bone is just so chunky.
A lot.
Right.
I tried frog leg with mine too and got I tried it with the smaller ones. I tried it with my adults. And that was another one that none of them showed any interest in too, which I thought was strange. I fully expected them to just go nuts.
Occasionally, I've just negated the bone in the frog legs, just cut around the bone with a knife. And I'll feed, just the meat of the frog leg to the rhinos and then follow it up with a fuzzy mouse. So like a little bit of hair in there and a little bit of bone, kind of bind that poop and whatnot, so it's not super, super runny. And that seems to work pretty well.
Yeah.
The only things I had really good success with on the frog legs, I think I had one rat snake that would eat him, but not from tongs. He wasn't about it. You drop fed a couple. But the only things I really had success with the frog legs was water snakes. The water snakes loved the chopped up frog leg meat. They were all about it, but anything else just kind of looked at it weird. They're like,
yeah, I got kind of mixed results too. The Boyga loved them. The Jance and I were kind of a hit or miss sort of situation. I have a couple corns that love them. Some of the Bairds enjoyed them. I think even the female subok took some, which was interesting. But
yeah, some of those more like arid species kind of surprises me. It was the southeastern stuff, that really
Yeah, the
surprised me
ones you
that they weren't
expect to take,
about it.
and yeah.
Right.
Like you guys definitely see these regularly, and I know you eat them. Like I don't know, it's weird, And again, I think it kind of goes back to snakes kind of being, we as keepers, the majority. I'm not gonna say everybody. The majority of us kind of feed the same things more often than not. So when you give them a foreign item, it's kind of like, what the hell is this? So I think that kind of goes into it. Snakes get used to a certain item when you feed them that for several years straight, then you give them something different and they're not really about it.
Right.
So
I'd be interested to try quail eggs too. Now that my biggest male rhino, he's big enough to probably take a quail egg.
dude, Skylar swears by quail eggs, man. He's got a whole bin full of quail eggs.
Well, his also have that scent to them that
Yeah,
like the store-bought stuff don't, that's kind of the issue I think I've had when I tried to offer quail eggs to some stuff is like they were store-bought, so they were clean and, more or less, sterile, quote unquote.
Right.
Didn't have that bird scent to them.
Skylar brought down an entire coffee can of quail eggs to Daytona. And I could have sworn I put that can of quail eggs in the car when we were leaving
No.
but we didn't. The only place that it could have gone, I mean, we checked everybody's car, and the only place that it could have got left is in the hotel room refrigerator, which that poor house cleaner was.
Dude, imagine all the weird stuff
this?
housekeeping people find after Daytona in those rooms. Like,
I mean, it was probably 200 eggs.
Jesus.
Like,
man.
But
I'm kind of pissed. I meant to actually. He offered me some quail to take back, like bigger adults that he wasn't going to be feeding for a while, and I was like, hell yeah, dude, I'll take some. But then, like, I was going to leave, and I forgot to get like a styrofoam cooler, and I didn't want a chance bringing them back.
Like frozen ones?
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't want a chance bringing them back, like not in some type of cooler. So I was like, nah.
I've been very tempted to try getting some of those going too, man.
Dude, if I had the space, I would do it.
Like I've got the incubator.
I would. If I had the space to actually keep some adult quail, and don't get me wrong, it's some work. Skylar's in there every day. I saw his pen and all his animals. It takes some effort and it takes some dedication. But if I had the space and time for it, I 100% would
fully round out Smith Farms. Got to be full circle. Mice, rats.
But see, quail are more like Skylar's in his pen every day.
Mm-hmm.
Doing stuff like it's a dedication, it's not really as black and
white. How many do you think he has, like breeding stock wise?
If I had to guess, anywhere between 25 and 50. I would think he's closer right there in the middle. You'd have to ask him, but he does. It's not a small amount. I saw the quail bopping around in his little pen that he's got out there, and there's quite a few, and he gets a ton of eggs, man.
I've seen he sent some pictures and stuff of what he's pulling. It's nuts.
Yeah, dude, they produce like crazy. He's got a couple white ones running around in there. It was really cool, like seeing his pen and going in there and checking them out, and but that's like daily water change type thing because they discuss their water every single day. It's a lot like chickens, basically. That's how I saw it. I know they're not chickens, and I'm sure there's a difference, but everybody I know that has chickens is doing the same things every single day, like spraying out waters, changing them.
Well, does he have like the dish with the bottle that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, those get gross real quick.
Yeah, no, they do. But that's the thing with any type of fowl like that. They get, they're all up in their waters and they're throwing.
Yeah, but they make drip
the
systems
dirt and drip systems. Gross. Maybe not. Yeah, that would be a little different. But still, you have to clean out whatever the heck they're drinking out of. But no, they're cool, man. If I had the space for quail, I would do it for sure. Plus, they're cool. I like quail. They're one of my favorite birds. But
they're definitely a lot of work. Not that breeding rats isn't. I've run a rat room before, but I think you're either spending your money to buy rats and mice, or you're trading your time to raise them yourself.
yeah,
And that's definitely my plan. As soon as I have the appropriate space to do it, my garage is all insulated up right now, like over the garage door. I got like foam insulation panels in the whole garage, would just absolutely stink.
Oh yeah.
If I tried to do rats or mice inside there, like I'm just not even going to attempt it because I know it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I went through 100 pounds of rodent diet over the course of the last 3 weeks that I've had the rats.
Oh my God.
Between the rats and the mice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been an adjustment. But
yeah, I think overall breeding your own stuff helps. And I will say, especially for quail, I think breeding your own is better because of the quality. You know what you're feeding them, it's going into them versus buying them from Rodent Pro. Because let's face it, Rodent Pro is the best place to get quail from. They're one of the only places you can buy bulk frozen quail from. But it's not the same. I'm not talking smack about anybody. I buy quail from Rodent Pro, but the feathers are falling off during thawing out. They smell kind of weird. It's different when you're breeding your own. Rats and mice, you can get quality rats and mice from people breeding. You can buy those. That's one thing. And I think breeding your own, it almost evens out, if you're doing it, at least in bigger numbers. If you have a small group and that feeds your collection, then that's different. But as far as quail goes, I think the biggest difference is the quality that goes into them. Because everybody talks about if you feed any type of fowl, your snakes are going to have diarrhea. That's pretty much the consensus. You're going to get runny poops. It's going to be kind of gross. But Skylar, with him feeding his stuff, he's like, dude, they're solid. They look great, because he puts a lot of time and effort into what he feeds his quail. And I think that's the biggest difference in breeding your own stuff versus buying frozen in bulk. That's just my 2 cents. What do I know?
Especially, he's trying to keep them in a more natural way that the bird can be, more of a bird rather than like a commercial quail like breeding pen that they have, where they lay the egg, and I think the egg like rolls out like into a little catch tray into the front. You have like limited space to move. But you would know better, Jack. I'm pretty sure that those quail have like dusting areas in the sand where they'll like throw the sand up over them to clean themselves and cool off. And I think that definitely plays a part in his success, allowing that animal to do what it's made to do.
Yeah, no, he's definitely got a good setup going on over there for the quail. It's by no means like, most of his yard he's got, but it's like, like I said, it's like a chicken pen.
Right.
At least that's how I looked at it, and for the amount of quail he's got, it's perfect. It does really well, and he has a ton of success doing it. Like I said, if I had the space, I would do it. I rent, so I don't own my house.
Me too.
If I owned my house, it would be a different story. But it would. Yeah, no, I would love to breed my own quail one day. I don't think I'll breed mice on my own, or rats, all that. But quail, yeah, I can get down with it.
And they're delicious. Like, you're too big for a snake. You're going in the skillet, buddy.
That's right, boy. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So how's the oxycephalum doing?
The oxys are doing much better over the last few weeks, last few months. than they were when I picked them up in Daytona. That was a huge learning curve picking up those red-tailed green rats. When I brought those two animals home, well, let me start. When I picked them up from the show, that's how Justin and I originally met. I asked him to take a look at those animals before I purchased them. Supposedly captive bred, but some of the coloration of the animals compared to some locality information from what you would generally see, like a Malaysian to Malaysian animal or an Indo to Indo animal, they do not appear to be captive born and bred, because one of them is very has a lot of reds and silvers and oranges, and the other animal is all silver with a little bit of yellow on its head. And assuming they came from the same clutch, which there was another red tail along with those that my buddy Tyler currently has, it just doesn't make sense to me from talking to a few other people that those animals could have been captive from a Malaysia to Malaysia animal, because they look nothing alike. And I did see some pictures of the adults when I bought those babies, and both of them to me looked like they were animals out of Malaysia, just straight green red tails. So I've yet to put together a good story on where these babies came from. But anyways, I took them home and went to feed them. The smallest one regurgitated the next morning, and over about the next 3 months, regurgitated 13 times on me.
Oh my God.
Just would eat every time I fed it, and sometimes would keep a day-old Pinky Mouse down for like 3 days, and I would just get this nasty, half-digested regurg. All the while, I'm still medicating the snake, giving it metronidazole, to fight amoeba and hopefully stimulate that appetite enough. Giving it Panicure to hopefully, fight any parasites that it had inside of it, thinking that was the only way that I was going to get this thing to thrive, short of, putting a tube down its stomach. And they were pretty small animals. And being that they're fairly high stressed, I did not feel like that was the best option at the time, especially since this animal would continue to eat every single time food.
Right, that's odd.
I mean, she would just pound it, and that was the only one that would eat off tongs. The other two that were doing great wouldn't take food off tongs, but this one that was like just hadn't eaten, in 2.5 months would just fly out of her hide and nail a Pinky Mouse, keep it down for 2 or 3 days, and then it would come right back up. So then I just started kind of playing around with how I would dose her, and I ended up just mixing up a concoction of Panicure and Flagyl, just kind of whipping it up and coating this Pinky Mouse in it. And once I started combining those two medications together, that's when I started getting food to stay down. Took a long time to get the animal rehydrated. I mean, I was dropping water on her head out of a straw. She was very, very fearful of the mister, didn't want anything to do with it. But if a nice big water droplet, like if I could get the straw really close and like almost put the tip of the straw in her mouth, holding my finger on one end and just let water out of it, she would sit there and drink. And all of those animals are doing great now. I'm doing Baytril treatments on them right now, and they're about halfway through that treatment. And I mean, I don't know how they made it, to be honest. It was just kind of one of those things like you should be dead, and there's I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, I remember.
Don't question it,
Just
man.
didn't
Just
give up
roll
on
with it. Just
Yeah.
roll with it.
And I remember seeing those at Daytona. And when you asked me about them, I looked at them and like, I mean, in terms of if them being imports, and even if they said they were captive bred, who knows, whatever. But I mean, they were objectively like they were really solid looking animals. Like they looked
Right.
healthy. There was nothing like they didn't look dehydrated. They didn't look thin. Like they looked good. I think that's kind of what I've said with like the Jansenii and stuff is I think you'll have the best success with imports in particular if you get them as young as possible.
Right.
Kind of like with chondros too. I think adult chondros that are imports, I don't think they ever fully acclimate
Right.
to a degree. Like there's always going to be a little bit of them that just is always going to have that sort of just wild caughtness about them in terms of like attitude and stuff like that. But if you get a baby Biak and you raise that up, they're just you get them all dewormed and on the up and up and stuff. I mean, they're just as rock solid as captive bred stuff is. It's just a matter of getting them there. And I think with Gonyosoma, especially true Gonyosoma stuff, I think that's the case as well. But yeah, I mean that is in dealing with what you dealt with those in terms of regurg and stuff. Like yeah, by all means, those on paper those should not have survived. Going through what they went. So
especially
I think
regurging that many times.
Yeah.
Like
and I think if you've got
toll.
them, if you've got them to a point now to where they're solid, I think you're pretty much in the clear at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And no, I'm not fighting any respiratory issues on them or anything. I feel like the husbandry is pretty dialed in as far as temperatures and humidity on them. And I waited around to, find these particular animals come across babies for that very reason, knowing that if I bought adults, one, I'm going to have to medicate, a 6-foot pissed off red tail green rat snake. And the bites are not enjoyable. And knowing that the death rate on those animals is very, very high. I just figured I better just wait it out. Find these, little animals that I can start off and, latch top totes or 6-quart tubs and really work with them from there. And one of the other deciding factors was like before breeding stock, these are all my pets. And I didn't want to buy, a big old scarred up, beat up, red tail because I don't find it as enjoyable to look at. I honestly feel a little bad, looking at this thing. And it's like, man, you look like absolute hell.
Like you should have stayed where you came from.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, buddy. You should have stayed out there. Although I will say there's a place for those. Like when they've been brought in, there's a place for them, but it's not for somebody it's not for the faint of heart. Like granted, when an animal's already been imported and brought in, like it's got to go somewhere to get the best treatment it can. Scarred up, mite and internal parasite infested, whatever. There's somebody that can take good care of it. There's always a place for that. But it's definitely
that's how we get captive bred stock is you got to have people that are willing to take the roll the dice and jump through all the hoops they got to make sure the animals get established and are in good shape. And that's kind of always the odd thing, like oxycephalum in particular. You see them imported a lot. You see them all the time. Like you see oxys imported, and you see them online. You see them on tables and stuff. And it's kind of similar to, maybe not to the extent of like Candoya, but it's like you see all these come in and you're like, where do they all go?
Right.
Like clearly people are buying them because they're coming in still. And you got to wonder like how many people are getting these thinking, and I get it's, it's same with wild caught mangroves, I think as well. People get them and they think that it's just going to be sort of a, walk in the park, no big deal, get some food in them and whatnot. And it's like, they're like quicksand in the fact that like if you get them and you start treating them and hitting them with, why adults in particular, I think, especially, like, you get them and you start hammering them with dewormer, and you hammer them with all these other things, and you're not letting them get hydrated and acclimated. Like, the more you fight it, the worse it gets.
Right.
You're right.
And so like, in talking to our buddy Nipper over in the UK, that was something he had mentioned, with true Gonyosoma. He's like, you get them, leave them be. Don't try and medicate them right out the gate. Like, give them a couple weeks. Like, the parasites aren't going to go anywhere. They're not going to, they're not going to kill it overnight or anything like that. Like, they can live with them for a little while. It's not like it's take care of them immediately or it's done.
Right.
Like, let them just have it. Let them carry it for a little while. Let them chill a little bit, and then sort of introduce it, because it's like you're already dealing with an immunocompromised animal that's super stressed, dehydrated, almost definitely, and then you're throwing effectively like what's poison into their body, and that's got to go through like their kidneys and their liver and stuff that's already struggling as is, and it's a recipe for failure. And where do you think people kind of go wrong with those on that front?
I think you're right in saying that hitting them right off the bat with the medication is not a good idea, because the reality is these animals are full of parasites in the wild. They
Yeah.
just
Right.
don't have the stress factor that makes that virus or parasite active. I am not a vet, so I couldn't explain it to you in any better way than that. But the catching or the importation doesn't give them the parasites. Like they had it all along when they were sitting up in their tree in Malaysia.
Exactly.
So I think in the event that you do get imported animals, just trying to replicate that environment of it being quiet, really focusing on hydration, and just reducing stress levels as much as possible. Like the tub that I have my Jansenii in now, big latch top totes. I have paper all the way around the tub. Like those animals can't even see out, just reducing that visual stimuli as best I can. And that has seemed to really help, especially with the larger Jansenii that I got just a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Before I put that paper up, like the first day that I got her, like she was just essed up, puffed up. I mean, for hours inside that tub. I was getting everything set up, and they'll just stay like that, just in that defense mode. It's like their brain just doesn't shut off, and they're constantly in a state of fear.
Everything's trying to kill me. Yeah.
Right. And even like occasionally now I'll go in and peek behind that paper, and she's perched up how I would picture a wild Jansenii, like she's sitting there doing her slow tongue flick, and pretty content, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, and this is just personal opinion, I could be completely wrong, but I think when you start the whole internal parasite, treatment, I think, again, in my opinion, I think it would be better to start with light treatments.
Right.
Versus, no matter how long you wait, once you start light. Don't pump them full of the max that people recommend. Start with a quarter of that, just something to kind of start the process, build it up more and more until their bodies kind of get used to it. Because I feel like once you start it, if you pump them full of their max load, it's going to be kind of a shock. Like start them.
It's a foreign substance.
It's a foreign substance. You're putting it into a rodent. Start small. Give them a couple items with none, then give them a couple with 25% of what they can take.
Mm-hmm.
After a couple months of that, give them 50% of what they can take, 75 to 100. And then really clean them out. Yeah, it might take a year.
Right.
To really do it, but that's what quarantine's for. That's that you have to do these things for these animals, especially stuff that, like your Asian rat snakes that have gone through literally hell and back coming through the States. They are beyond stress. You have to take every precaution that you can. You don't want to pump them full of, your panicure, the full amount, the first treatment, that could kill your animal, and again, that's just my opinion. I don't know these for facts, but that's at least how I see it. It's like anybody taking any type of medication. You kind of have to ease into it, or you're gonna really screw yourself up. And snakes are no different, in my opinion. So,
and I think starting with that flagell, it being a appetite stimulator, and simply fighting the amoeba and protozoa in that animal system before you whack it with something like panicure, that has really seemed to help me also. Just kind of taking it one step at a time, and like if that animal doesn't want to eat, like that flagell should stimulate the appetite enough to get a few meals in it. And then I was taking syringes and then just putting the flagell inside of the rodents, just injecting it with water in really light doses inside that rodent.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any difference in terms of keeping the Jansenite versus the oxys? Any major differences that stick out in terms of how they?
I'm keeping them the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
The exact same way. They have a hot spot of 83 degrees, which I will say they're almost never on.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually in the front of their tubs, and like say I fed them tonight, they would probably be in the back of that tub on that heat source for maybe 24 hours, and then they're right off of it.
Yeah.
I do have a much larger rack coming on Wednesday, 110 quarts. So those animals will really be able to get up off the ground now. And I already have some, branches picked out to outfit those tubs with. And the Jansenii are never on the ground. In these latch top totes that I have, they're always up really high.
Mm-hmm. See, my adults have a perch, but if they're on it, they're cruising. It's mine have been the opposite, where mine are almost always in their cork log or court rounds.
Hide a lot.
Yeah. Now, if I had them in something taller, where they had more sort of elevated options and coverage, that a lot of visual barriers and stuff up higher too, that may not be the case. And eventually I'll find out, because I do want to upgrade them into something that's got more vertical space to it. But yeah, I mean, you look on iNaturalist and stuff at Jansenii, and they're almost always in a tree.
Yeah.
Which they could just be off the ground, because I have those tubs, completely wrapped in paper, and they can't see in, or they can't see out of that tub at all. And I'm sure even if they were off the ground, as soon as they saw me without that paper, I'm sure they'd be shooting down to the ground to a hide. The red tails are still pretty small. I would say they're probably somewhere in between maybe 12 and 15 inches right now. So those have just been in 6-quart tubs in quarantine. They're not coming out of quarantine for a long time. But their next upgrade is going to be these 110-quart tubs that are just going to be completely packed out. And one of the red tails is a little bit bigger than the other. That's the one that didn't have the regurg problems. So I'm going to try her in that larger tub first and just kind of see how she does. Mm-hmm. Especially because I'm just drop feeding them in front of their hides, like whatever hide they're in at the time, whether they're in the hide that's on the heat tape in the back, or they're in the cool hide in the front. I just drop the mice right in front of the hide, and they eat them every time.
Yeah.
So kind of my same game plan when I move them up into these bigger tubs. And I'm just going to kind of gauge how they're doing from there. And for that bigger Jansenii that I just got a few weeks ago, I have a 4 long by 3 tall by 2 foot deep enclosure coming on Wednesday also. And the plan is to just pack that pack that cage out with cork and branches and humidity hides and just paper the whole front of the glass.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care about seeing the things at this point. Like, I'll get to see them the rest of their lives, as long as I
Mhm.
get through this process.
Right.
And I have heard like some people say that their red tails and Jansenii will be out on display, after they've really settled in. But I kind of got it in my head that it's really just not that animal. And that's
I don't know. I've had mine for 2 years, man, and it's like as soon as I walk in the room, if they're out, they're gone.
the purpose of getting them is, not for it to be that beautiful display animal,
Right.
even though they are. But the point is to put more captive born and bred animals into the hobby, which I have heard from a couple people, like Daniel from Daniel Snakes. He said that his captive born and bred babies are much less inclined to bite, are much less flighty. And I'm curious if an animal like that could potentially be, that beautiful display animal that is, way less stressed. But I think those wild ones, like, it's just ingrained into their brain that everything is going to kill them.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you ever get that out of them, which is kind of what we're saying about those adults never really acclimate. Like,
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like mine, the reason that that Dr. Loafman sent me the ones he had is because he had them on display, and he's like, they're horrible display snakes. Like they don't do well with a ton of movement going on outside the cage. Like, and so when I got them, I fully expected to really not see them much, and I was kind of the opinion, like, if I'm not seeing them, then good. Like they're content. If I'm seeing them all the time and they're cruising constantly, like that's a problem. And I'll see them every now and again. Like I'll walk in the room and sometimes they'll be out and they'll kind of just sit there and freeze. But most of the time, if I walk in, I'm like seeing the very end of the tail as it goes under something, which is fine. I mean, that's like, if someone's going to get into these and they get imports and they get them settled and stuff, it's like, if you got a snake that's going to be sort of eye candy and stuff, like they're not going to be it, And I think maybe people don't realize that getting them. And so they look cool on the table, and then you get them and it's just a giant pissed off snake that wants absolutely nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
They kind of lose the allure pretty quick. And they are a snake that I think, or a genus in particular with the true gonyos, that's like, you really do have to love them for what they are, because like you're not there's pretty severe diminishing returns on them. They're not that pleasant to deal with when they're out of the cage. You're not going to see them much. And I'm okay with that. Like, it's just a cool species. Like Jansen and I were a dream species for me. And so when I got my pair, it was like, I was just happy to have them. I was like, I don't even care that I don't ever see them. Like, that's fine. Like, it's just a badass snake. And so now, like, I'm at the point where it's like, I've had mine it's going on at least 2 years now. And I really want to, I got a small clutch of eggs out of them last year, about this time last year, actually. I think might have been the year before last. No, it was definitely last year. Now it's like, this is the year where I'm like, okay, now I need to sit, like, really put some focus into it and figure out what I need to do to get eggs to happen again. And I just, you just gotta sort of know what, I guess, you're signing up for with them, and not expect much. If you want something that's out all the time and is going to be fun to play with, and a Brettles python is definitely the route to go. But I found, even with like just getting the percentum recently from Matt, I have the male in a Bio G, and he's out just as much as the rhinos are. I've kind of come to the conclusion that they're like the yin to the rhinos yang. Like, they're just as out and about and stuff as the rhinos are, but they're not nearly as friendly or like fun to play with. But they act very similar in terms of, like, they're out, they're curious, they're just, it's like a rhino in terms of behavior, but in terms of interaction, it's a true Gonyosoma, like, all the way. Like, they're just pissy. But the whole genus is, whether you consider Persimmon and Belandrii and all that other stuff to be true, Gonyosoma or whatever. It's such a cool group in general. And that's why, we started USGA, because there's a Gonyosoma group on Facebook, or at least a big one, and that's almost entirely people in Europe and stuff like that. And so I was like, you know what? I think there's enough people now in the States that are kind of invested in the genus to where we should have kind of our own thing. And, I kind of decided to start it on a whim. And, when that was when me and Chaz started talking a good bit about Jansenii and some of the other stuff. And I was like, you know what, let's throw this together. And we have a strict US only policy, and we've had a ton of people from like France and stuff try to sign up, and I always feel bad hitting decline, but it's like, man, it's like, you guys got your group, man. Like, there's only so few of us over here. We gotta all 50 of us got to stick together.
And it seems like and let me know if you've noticed this too, Justin. Like, there is a lot of red tails being hatched overseas.
Oh yeah.
But it seems like for some reason over here in the US, like there's some like environmental factor or like a food factor that's like not quite lining up. And like eggs have a really hard time hatching. Or they'll go a majority of the ways through incubation and the eggs will crash.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to figure out what is really going on with that.
I don't know. My initial instinct is that the European crowd, having smaller collections with more focus on fewer animals, probably has a decent hand in that.
Right.
Maybe like here in the States, it's kind of the opposite. And I think it's entirely possible that people get them and think that it's as easy as incubating anything else that we keep commonly over here. And I think that's not the case, because everything I've heard as far as incubating Gonyo eggs is like,
it's hell.
That's the tough part, I think if I do get good eggs out of them, I think I have a pretty good chance with it. I mean, having produced the Boiga and chondros and stuff, I think I kind of have an idea, and having guys like Daniel, to be able to pick his brain if I do get eggs, being like, tell me what you did so I can sort of figure out what I need to do, because being in South Carolina compared to, I think he's in Kansas. There's definitely an environmental factor there that's going to be different for him than it is for me. And then just kind of figuring it out, because clearly, like I said, the European crowd has something figured out, because they seem to be producing them on the regular.
It seems like every other day there's a picture in that big international Gonyo group that there's a clutch hatching. And I'm always clicking on that person's profile, and it's, they're in France, they're in the UK, they're everywhere but the United States where that success is taking place. And I've been looking for about 3.5 years now for true captive born and bred red tails, and I have yet to be able to get my hands on them.
Yeah, I do want to get Oxys at some point. I've only had the Jansenii and the rhinos and the Presentum now, but I'd like to try my hand at Oxys. Like, I'd be willing to roll the dice on some imported adults with those, sort of knowing what I know now in terms of what I've dealt with in the past and stuff. But that's just a space issue entirely.
Right.
I don't know. But what was your? So when I got my Jansenii initially, I was I got them and was fully expecting them to sort of be difficult and pretty headache-inducing in terms of issues and keeping them afloat and not having a hard time with them. But I actually found them to be really easy to keep in terms of like they're healthy. I'm not having any issues. Like, what was your expectation going in with like the Oxys and the Jansenii versus sort of what you found to be actually the case?
I had already done a ton of research on both those species, because like I said, I had been looking for them for so long, just waiting to buy the right animals, because like I said, that 6 foot adult is definitely not going in my main room, and having a place in the rest of my house to quarantine that wasn't like like just in an intrusive place inside of my bedroom. Like I currently have just cages lining the side of my bed while these things are in quarantine, and luckily they are small cages. But one thing I was not willing to do was buy an adult red tail and put it in, say, a 41 quart tub. Because I think that's a big problem on why a lot of these animals don't end up making it, is just that super confined space, the ability to not get off the ground, and sitting on moist substrate if you're hydrating them as constantly as they need to be sprayed. There's a lot of guys out there that are using things like I'm currently using paper that, as soon as it gets significantly wet, I can change out when I do a water change. And usually when those, like say the Jansenii is in a hide box, I just slide a clean piece of paper kind of just right underneath them and pull the old one out. A lot of people like bath towels, super easy to change out.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too with the true Gonyos in particular, and I always found that interesting because you don't really hear that being done with other species. I haven't done it. I've always just done mine on either puppy pads or cypress mulch, like dried out cypress mulch.
Which cypress mulch does dry out really, really quick. Even if you soak that stuff down, like the moisture comes right out of it.
Yeah.
Which is probably also great for the humidity levels.
Gives them that nice gradient for a period of time. It's
like I got one of those Govee temperature sensors, and the Jansenii and the red tails are both sitting right between 75 and 80% humidity at the bottom of their tub. And like I said, about 83 degrees under their heat pads or heat tape. And then the other side of the tub is just cooling off to room temperature, like somewhere between like 72 and 73 degrees all the time. But yeah, man, I think that having them in tubs and just having them on, a wet substrate, something like a cocoa husk or cocoa fiber, with the amount that they need to be misted down in order to hydrate them correctly, is just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, if you're dealing with an immunocompromised animal already, and you got all kinds of microbes and parasites and stuff sort of at the door ready to sort of take over, and you're keeping them damp like that, then you're just adding another layer of bullshit to deal with.
Right.
Because even when I got my Jansenii initially, like I didn't keep them on anything but puppy pads, and I really didn't even miss mine that much. But humidity is also never really an issue down here.
No.
And I never had a bad shed or nothing out of them. They've been rock solid. That's why when I got them, I was like, okay, this is like, these are going to be another level of tough compared to whatever, other stuff I've kept. And then after, a couple of weeks, I was like, these things are actually doing surprisingly well for the lack of problems I've had.
Which how did those animals get to you? Were they already pretty well established?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will preface that by saying they were imported young, not hatchlings or neonates or anything like that, but I think juveniles. And then, Doc Loafman had them for a while. I don't know exactly how long. And they were, I think they were doing fine with him. It was just a matter of they were just stressed out, and they just weren't good display animals because you never really saw them.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe if I do get more Jansenii or Oxys and I get sort of imported adults, it may be a very different story in terms of what I dealt with, but I just found them to really not be as hard as I thought they would be.
Right. I was under the impression that these things are really going to kick my butt off the, off the
Mhm.
rip. And besides that one that had the regurg issues, I mean, it doesn't take any more effort to keep these things than, a rhino rat snake, other than, I'm looking at the rhinos all the time, and that, that Jansenite doesn't want to see me at all.
Yeah. Have you, aside, you just got a Barons to take to Skylar, but have you kept Barons
I have not
previously?
Nope.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah, this Barons is here for a very, very quick pit stop.
Because he knows rhinos are better. That's why, Jake.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm of the, so this is my opinion on the whole thing. I will always say Barons just because Smitty likes rhinos better. That's my main driving point for saying Barons are better. But I keep Barons, and again, I feel like this is where me and Smitty kind of bounce off of each other as really good co-hosts. Is we kind of keep similar things but opposite. So it kind of we go together well in that aspect. But as far as
We're
one
like
being
water
better,
and oil.
exactly. But as far as one being better than the other, I think it's just what you're initially drawn to.
Right.
I don't think either one is better. Again, all my Barons people might come at me for this.
All the rhino people are going to disagree.
Yeah, and that's fine because it's okay to be wrong. But I love my Barons. I absolutely love them. They are fantastic animals. They're so cool to interact with. But again, I think it's just personal preference. Barons are amazing. Rhinos are amazing. I love going into Smitty's room and seeing all his rhinos all perched up and hanging out. It's freaking awesome.
I love them.
And I love my Barons, but I think it's just a personal preference thing, whether one is better or not. I think it's in the eyes of the beholder. As far as keeping goes, they're pretty similar. I've had no problems with my Barons.
If you put a Barons in one of Stevie Wonder's hands and you put a rhino in the other hand of Stevie Wonder, Stevie Wonder would pick the rhino.
I don't like where this is. I don't like that question.
I will say, if you put a rhino rat snake and a Barons racer in the same cage, the rhino
wins.
It's a proven winner.
Okay, look, I was trying to make an argument for rhinos just to be nice because I'm against
even
rhino
Loafman
guys now. But
even
fuck
Loafman
you both, Barons are better.
Loafman even admitted it on air.
Who
that
did?
Rhino Doc Loafman.
He's a Barons guy.
Well, apparently he thinks rhinos are superior because he said it on the last CCR episode.
He's still a Barons guy though.
He's a South American everything guy.
There's a reason he keeps Barons and sent you his rhinos.
Also, yes.
There's that.
I hope they go this year, dude. I'm so freaking pumped.
No,
I'm gonna clutch out of rhinos this year. Oh my god,
rhinos are awesome. They really are. I'll say
the best.
But if somebody was like, you can have one of these two snakes. One of them is a Barons. One of them is a rhino. I'm taking the Barons.
See, the difference is like I don't have to worry about putting a rhino in the kid's hands and then them getting bit and their hands swelling up like a freaking balloon.
That's also why they're cooler.
It's debatable.
Terrific. And also I know Barons can be kind of annoying with feeding, but the general consensus, Barons are a little easier to get going than rhinos. That's just been. I'm not saying they're not hard. Barons, I've definitely heard of some Barons.
Nothing good comes easy.
Difficult,
right?
But
nothing worth doing comes easy.
This isn't a fair argument. I wish Sky was here so it could be a 2-on-2.
Why are you ganging up on me?
This isn't fair. You guys are ganging up on me.
A lot. And I think the thing about the rhinos is they're just very, like, I have found that switching up feeding techniques on, say, a baby, say you get your first rhino rat snake. I have found that consistently trying to feed them the same exact way, for me at least, has led to success. Whereas if I've tried to take one and say I'm going to do, just rosy reds, and then the next week I'm going to do just a pinky mouse in the water, and then the next week I'm going to try to tease feed it, and then the next week I'm going to try to drop feed it. I have not had success that way at all, actually. It's the times that I continually try the same technique. Like if I sit there and strike feed with it, hold it in my hand and just
The Burwell method.
Right, the Burwell method. If you do it enough times, it's going to work.
And see, I feel that way about everything. Like, it's not for me. And again, I'm not saying like you're wrong with just saying that with rhinos at all. Like, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I look at that way with everything.
Okay.
The more you change it up, the longer it's going to be that they disagree with what you're doing. If one week you're trying this, the next week you're trying this, the next week you're trying this, then you're not going to have success. It has to be, give it some time.
Right.
Give it a couple tries, give it several tries, and then if it's still not working, then switch it up. Like, okay, this obviously is not working. Now let's try something different. Try that for several weeks. And one thing that I have found is if you're trying every, again, for small colubrids, we want to get food in them as soon as possible. They're tiny, whether it be rhinos or even your eastern rat snakes.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get food in them as soon as possible because they're so small. But in the same token,
rhinos are tiny.
Yeah, exactly. But in the same token, if you're trying to feed them, like say, let's just take tease feeding for an example. If you're trying to tease feed them every 4 days to once a week, you're going to stress them out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to scare them. You're going to make them scared of food.
Right.
My opinion is try and then let them sit.
Mm-hmm.
Let them sit. Let them get hungry. Let them calm down. Try again the same way. If they don't take, let them sit, let them calm down for a while, and then go again. Obviously, it's kind of, you have to fine tune it. You don't want to try every month. Like, yeah, that's a little too long in between, but don't try every 3 days to try and shove a pinky down this thing's throat.
Right.
Because all you're going to do is make them scared of food.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I've dealt with snakes that are genuinely scared of food, and it's
it's not just you.
Yeah, it is.
I'd be scared of you.
Yeah, no. Come from the. Never mind. I'm not going to go there.
Say it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
So now with rhinos, like I have a couple little females right now. One that came in from the UK from Ivory, and one from Terry, and now I just do the same thing every time with them. They go into a medium critter keeper on a paper towel with a water dish, 2 hides, and a little bit of greenery, something to climb on, 75-degree ambient, and I'll generally leave them for 7 to 10 days before I even try to offer food with them coming in.
My man. See, Smitty.
Damn it.
Somebody that agrees with me. Leave them alone.
See, I'm team try them the day they come in, give them something.
No, if it's a corn snake or something, okay, maybe. But for certain things, I do that as like a staple. Anything I get that's new, I put them in their enclosure. I let them sit at the very least a week. If it's something like, oh, they eat great, they blah, I let them sit a week. It's one thing when Chris Payne Shop sends me, established pine snakes, and he's like, yo, they need to eat. They need to eat like as soon as you get them. I let them sit 3 days, then I might offer something because Pituophis just need to freaking eat, or they will literally
Spoiler
starve.
alert, everything needs to eat.
Okay. There's lines though. Pituophis will burn off calories and fat really freaking fast. Stuff like a rhino rat will not. They are a much cooler species. You need to keep them a little cooler. They do not burn stuff.
Cooler.
Neither not nearly as close as Pituophis will. Pituophis will burn through whatever you give them fast as shit. So if it's been a week and then they shipped them and it's been all of 9-10 days since they ate, it's like, look, you need to give them some food. That I understand. Stuff like any of your Asian rat snakes, even Eastern rat snakes, they can go a little longer. Let them sit. Let them sit. Let them acclimate. Let them get used to their environment that they're in.
Here's my counter to that. Okay.
See, now it's 2 against 1. How do you feel, Smitty?
Look.
How do you feel?
Here's my logic behind that.
I can't go against him. If he produces Jansenite, they're not coming to me.
Shut up, Chas.
I have to be on his team.
Damn.
My argument to that is like, look, they're already sort of heightened. They're already stressed. It's better, in my opinion, to just go ahead and offer them food and leave them be. Like, feed them and then ignore them.
If you're going to do it, at least drop feed.
Well, yeah, no, it's not like I'm in there like beating the shit out of them with a mounted forceps. Like I'm
okay. Yeah, that I can get behind. If you're just going to drop something in there, leave them alone. Okay, see if they'll come and eat. That I can get behind. Me, I tongue feed every single snake I have, pretty much. There's a couple I do drop feed, but I tongue feed pretty much 90% of my collection.
Everything.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I do. I make time for it because I care about my animals.
Is that why it takes you 4 hours to get everything fed?
No, it takes me 4 hours to get everything fed because I have no rodeo.
Fair.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
Okay. And there's just some, like, king rats are a pretty good example. Like, it doesn't matter if, the thing just hatched, the thing just shipped. You put food in front of a king rat. Like,
yeah.
Feed it. It doesn't need, a week to establish. You just throw a mouse on top of the thing's hide, when you put it in the tub. And it's like, oh, game on. It's time to eat.
Yeah. And again, it's individual specific. I think rhinos are the prime example of get it and let it sit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to offer it food, maybe give it a drop fed item. Just see if it takes. If it doesn't, then just leave it alone.
Bet your money it will.
Off. Yeah, well, I would not, especially if it's a baby.
And like I got in May 2022, I got a pair of rhinos from Matt Most, and I believe they were just eating out of the water dish. And I want to say I fed them on day probably 4 or 5. Both of those animals ate off tongs every single feeding up until now.
That's great.
I would be interested. Do pet stores still sell African clawed frogs? Is that still a thing?
Yes.
How much are those usually at PetSmart?
Very cheap.
That would be interesting to try out.
Right.
Baby rhinos as an alternative. Because I did tadpoles when I got my first rhino from Terry.
Just don't tell them that.
Well, obviously they're like, why are you buying 10 of these? It's like, don't worry about
it. Shut up. I mean, honestly, if you're getting a rhino, though, I mean, it's going to end up in the vent anyways. So,
Bitch.
This the rhino that I got from Terry, like a few days after I got it. This thing was so small. The lid on the critter keeper, it kind of latches shut.
Yeah.
This thing squeezed out of the top of the critter keeper.
What?
So then this only confirms my suspicions that Terry's rhinos are cursed, because my first rhino came from Terry and I lost it after a week and never got it back.
No.
Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
But before it left, before it jumped ship, I offered it tadpoles because I had those Vitatis tadpoles, and that thing went ham on those. So that makes me wonder African clawed frogs as a possible option.
Very small clawed frogs. Because even then, normally the ones like this come from a guy that used to be a PetSmart employee. This was a very long time ago.
Like last week.
No, I worked there I think I worked there when I was 18 and then when I was 20, when I moved to Texas and I needed a job. Bitch, I'm 27. Okay. It's been a long time. But even the smallest African claws that we get, that PetSmart would get, would be, in my opinion, a little big for a very tiny.
Well, it wouldn't be like a very tiny. I don't know. It was just a thought that popped into my head.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying
Yes,
it's
you
okay.
are.
I'm saying it's okay to be wrong, buddy. But
Justin, what would you compare hatchling rhinos to? Like, what is a comparable size hatchling colubrid?
In terms of like weight,
Yeah.
I would say Eastern rats.
Cyanea.
Eastern rats are close. Like baby Everglades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freaking tiny, dude.
Yeah.
You should see the one I've had
Rhinos-
from Chris for a couple months now. This thing is.
Rhinos are one of those ones that like you forget how damn tiny they are until you see them like right there. You know, when they're little.
I mean, I think you could ship them in a 2-ounce portion cup.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah,
they're really that small.
Yeah.
I think they're longer, but just as skinny as baby hognose snakes. They're a good bit longer, but
Are you sure?
Yeah, I literally just got 2 baby hognoses, and I gave them both the smallest pinkies I could find in my pack, and one of them was like a little bigger than the other, and the one that got the slightly bigger one was like struggling, and I was almost a little afraid that it was going to choke on this thing, but they were the smallest pinkies I could find in my pack. So like I would gauge, again, I don't keep rhinos. I only know what I've seen from Smitty and his ending up in the vents. They're small, they're tiny, so they take those really tiny, rodents.
I mean, the tail of a baby rhino is like 8-pound test fishing line.
Oh yeah,
like it is.
Yeah,
it's kind of daunting when that little tail is wrapped.
How is there even blood getting to that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there any projects or species you're looking to get into in the near or distant future?
Let's see.
Poplar carpets
projects. I'm definitely growing projects this year. Still growing the rhino project.
As you should.
Yes, I have 9 right now.
It's not enough. I have 5, and that's not enough.
I'm shooting for I think 12 females, and I think 5 males is going to do it for that project.
When are you getting barons?
I'll let you know after the podcast.
Glossing over that.
You need to let me know when you leave Skylar's.
Okay.
That's when you need to let me know when you're getting barons, because it's not going to be a matter of if you get barons; it's going to be a matter of when. So,
I hear you.
Yeah, just shoot me a message once you leave Skylar's.
I will. I will. Projects to grow. I've got a lot of stuff recently. A lot of things that I'm growing up that I haven't even, produced yet. Trying not to expand too quick, especially, when I have things like the Jansenii, the red-tailed green rats, that are going to be of significant size and need significant size enclosures.
Yeah.
But definitely looking to add some anoles this year, some more anoles.
Nice.
So I'm looking some Jamaican turquoise anoles.
Dude, that whole genus is like, if people only knew how awesome that genus was outside of the US, like it's unbelievable.
I want some so freaking bad, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's another lizard to like get into. I would go with those giant anoles, man. They are so freaking cool. I love them.
Western giants are arguably my favorite animal.
Yeah,
like
they're so cool.
Their diet is really cool. Like I have strawberries in their cage right now, and I've just chop the top off of some strawberries. I eat the actual berry, and they just, I stick the strawberry cap on a little branch, and they just kind of pick at that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They eat blueberries, raspberries. I fed them pinky mice a few weeks ago. Crickets, dubia, Pangea, like
Anything and everything.
Anything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like they'll eat. I mean, another large part of their diet in the wild is, other anoles. They're up in the canopy, and they pretty much eat all the other smaller anoles on the tree as they go down.
Brown anoles, baby. Need to get some of those.
I had some brown anoles hatch last night. Some Daytona locality browns.
Nice.
Sounds like a good feeder to me.
They are teeny though. I was just saying that it's hard to believe. Like I cannot remember them being this small, and they're like an inch long, sitting on the top of my finger, like they're a little morning gecko or something. I'm like, I don't even. I mean, the Western Giants are pretty large. Like they're about 13 inches right now, and they're not even mature yet. If I'm not mistaken, they're the largest of the crowned giants. So, like the biggest Cuban night anole that you've seen, these will be bigger. Like if you look on Ron St. Pierre's Instagram, it might be under Fairy Tale Dragons. Like he has a couple of pictures holding them on his hands, and they are huge. Like they're very impressive animals.
Yeah, those are freaking cool, man. I was stalking your Instagram a little earlier today just to look over some things. I saw one of your big anoles that you've got, and I was like, oh yeah, that's freaking sweet, man. I love those things, man. They're so stinking cool.
And like as far as a project, like they mature somewhere between like 9 months and a year old. They lay, like if you get them really, really on track, they'll lay 1 egg a week, and the egg hatches in like somewhere, I believe in between like 30 and 45 days. It's like very short incubation, lots of eggs if you dial the husbandry in, very variable diet. And they're as calm as can be. My 18-month-old son holds the Western Giants. Like I posted a picture just a couple days ago, and it's sitting on top of his head.
I saw that.
They don't bite. I just reach my hand right in there and scoop them up. But as soon as those animals get outside, it's like catching a wild night and all. They're just rogue at that point.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you put them outside,
the UV turns
the sun.
Mm-hmm.
The radiation makes me disappear.
I guess the only other thing that I'm, as far as a project that I'm really looking to, like a serious project that I'm looking to expand into, would be Pitayas carinata. I don't have them because I cannot afford them.
Which I find that ironic too, because that's like in their native range, like it's a stupid common species, and they don't strike me as anything that'd be super difficult to keep. Just a big fast snake. Right.
I believe the export quota on them is generally really low. Like I've looked at a couple lists, and you'll see things like the export quota on something like red-tailed green rat snakes is like 80 animals, and on the carinata it's like 2.
Wow. The people that have to catch them are like, I don't want to get these damn things.
Right. Plus I
want to bag this shit up.
If they're huge adults, the space that animal takes up in an import crate compared to a lot of these other things, may not seem very, very worth it.
Yeah.
And I am after wild types on those. I'm not a huge fan of the melanistic.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the wild types have more of a variable pattern. There's a little bit more to look at.
Some of those, man, the pattern looks so much like a banded king.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's like if you looked at a picture, like the back half of like a banded king cobra, and then you looked at the back half of like a carinata, the similarity is just uncanny. It's wild.
And there's definitely some animals coming into the country. Like there's some animals available through Northern Lights right now, but you know they're $5,000 for a pair.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
On animals that are not even confirmed if they're captive born and bred or just captive hatched. Which I guess isn't a huge deal. Like we said, if they are coming in as babies, but I imagine that animal grows significantly quick, and that's
eat you out of freaking house and home.
Right. You can't just jam that thing in an 8-foot enclosure. Like I think even 8 foot is going to be far too small for that animal as an adult. I think it's going to fly around that cage and mess its face all up.
Destroy everything.
Right. Which my plan, hopefully, when I move, not this summer, but the following summer, 2024, we're specifically looking for a house with a basement, so I can put up huge grow tents and do those more flighty animals in those cages, which is my plan for the Jansenii and red tails, is to have those animals in grow tents. They can't see out at all, holds humidity super well. You know, you just outfit them with potted plants and hanging hides, big water dishes and towels on the floor.
Yeah, and it'd be pretty easy to mount some way, you know, have a way to have a camera on them, like inside, you know, and be able to even just check in and see what they're doing without having to open it up and disturb them.
Right. And I think that's even my plan with the blue beauties when they're adults, especially when, you know, a big PVC cage is, you know, an 822 might cost you what, $700-800, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
probably more than that.
In that, I mean, a grow tent the size of this room that I'm in, you know, I don't know, 10 by 10 by 6 might run you like $300.
Right.
I've seen some people do that with monitors.
Oh yeah,
thing.
Cool.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, could be good. Awesome, man. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark. Smitty, do we have any further questions before we write this one out?
I don't think so.
Good deal, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on this episode. This has been a very fun one. I think me and Smitty have both genuinely enjoyed it. And you definitely got Smitty off with it, all this Gonyo talk.
But if we were talking about Nerodia, your tune would change.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, Nerodia and rat snakes, man. It's my jam. But where can people find you, man?
I am currently only on Instagram right now as far as social media, at More Than Morelia. I am planning on firing up a Facebook page. I haven't used my old one that I had back in the day in a very long time. I'm just going to start over fresh. Animals available on Morph Market, also under More Than Morelia.
Nice. Fantastic.
Awesome.
This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. You know where to go. Use the code THN at checkout. Get 10% off your order. And then go to SteveSnaketuary.com and get yourself the whole set of Venom hot sauce. You won't regret it.
You won't regret either one.
Either
one. Purchases.
Get both, and you'll be. There's no way you could even be upset or disappointed. Can't happen.
No, it won't. That's on THP. That's for sure.
We will
return Monday night for Snakes and Stogies 152. And I don't know. We're about due for another Corn Stars episode here soon. So have to figure that out. Slate Read raffle happening on the Herpetoculture Network website. Yeah. Please check that out. Grab some slots. Help out our buddy Ryan. We had him on the last episode. Yes.
Yeah, he kind of goes into detail about what's going on with his son's slate.
Yeah.
And definitely check out the raffle. It's a really good variety of stuff. It's not just, it's not even all reptile related. I think Ryan, our buddy Ryan, put up like a Jack Daniels fleece on
It's a
there.
North Face brand jacket,
Yeah.
and it's actually stupid nice because I have it here, and
Yeah.
that thing is like if it's too small for my gigantic ass, but that thing,
if you're my size, it will fit you. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there, from animals to gear to bags and fleeces and pictures, and I think this raffle was a prime example of how the community can pull together and just really do some awesome stuff. So definitely check out the raffle and see what's on there, see if anything fits your needs. It's not a lot to get in on most of them, and you got a chance to win some cool shit. So
we have the ping pong balls ready for drawing. So
yes, sir.
I'm anxious.
We're gonna make that a live episode and are we gonna try and get everybody in the network on for that, or?
We haven't even thought about that yet, but
yeah, I say we should try.
I mean, it's definitely gonna be the 27th, which is a Monday, so it would fall on a Snaketuary night, anyways.
I can't do Mondays, man. I gotta work.
I think you're gonna be sick that night.
It's hard to call out.
I think you're gonna be sick that night.
I will do my best.
On that note,
Monday's my serving day. So
this man has to get to bed because he's got to be up at 4 a.m. And I told him this would only take an hour and a half, and we're past that. So sorry, buddy.
I'm with you, buddy. I gotta be a hash crack of dawn. So
we appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.
Everybody. Have a good evening.
You too.
Good morning, good day, whenever you're listening to this. Thank you.
Thanks, man.